The rain didn't fall. It drilled, hard silver needles rattling the street into a mirror. A red convertible idled at a no-parking zone with the door flung open like a warning flag. A woman in a rust-colored dress stood barefoot on wet asphalt, one hand clamped over her bleeding leg, knuckles white. In the driver's seat, the leather glistened. On the curb, people froze with their umbrellas like paused actors. "Don't move." Evan said it before he saw the cut, his voice all muscle memory. He'd already dropped to a knee, resume packet jutting from his backpack, suit pants soaking black. "You'll open it up. Stay still." The woman blinked rain from her lashes. She was startlingly composed, like a person used to finishing a sentence before letting herself fall. "I was getting out." Wind slammed the door. Her breath hitched. There was a bottle. She gestured toward glittering shards on the sill. "Don't ask. Later." Evan slid his jacket under her calf and elevated the leg. The slice was ugly, jagged and deep, already seeding red down her shin. "Name?" "Addie," she said, voice thin. "Addison. Addison Cole." "Evan." He pressed a folded towel someone shoved at him. "Great. Pressure here. Keep your eyes on me." She tried to smile. It broke. Thunder walked the avenue. Behind them, a bus hissed at a stop, faces staring through fogged glass. "You a doctor?" she asked. "Used to be EMT," he said, eyes never leaving the wound. "Budget cuts. Long story. Ems is on the way." He glanced at the resume peeking from his pack and almost laughed. "Operations interview across the street." He let that version of the day drown. Addie swallowed. "You're going to be late. If they don't like a reason like this, I shouldn't work there." He tightened the towel. Deep breath. In 4, out 6. She followed, breath sinking with his count. Her lips were losing color. He felt the tremor in her calf travel into his hands. She covered it with sarcasm. People with power often do. "That car," he said conversationally, nodding at the red. "Yours." She hesitated. "Borrowed." From somewhere behind them a phone camera lifted. The circle of attention closed like a ring. Evan never looked up. "Eyes on me, Addison." "Addie," she corrected softly, and for no good reason the nickname made him want to stand taller. Sirens threaded the storm. An ambulance nosed through traffic and stopped with a sigh. A paramedic hopped down, clocked Evan's rap, and grinned with recognition only people who've worked midnight's share. Transfer was fast. Irrigate, steri strips, temp tourniquet, lift. When pain bit, Addie bit back harder. She didn't make a sound. "Ride with us?" the medic asked. Evan's mouth got ahead of his brain. I'll follow." Interview. Addie's hand shot out, surprising them both, and gripped his wrist. "Please don't vanish." "I won't," he said, and if there was one thing about Evan, it's that he never promised what he couldn't deliver. County General hummed like a hive. Stitches. Tetanus. Discharge instructions that never read like real life. Addie's dress had dried in patches. Her hair drew dark commas down her cheeks. When the curtain slid aside, she spotted him instantly, wet, jacketless, tie somewhere in a puddle between here and there. "You kept your promise," she said. "I do that," he said. She studied him like a problem worth solving. "You saved my leg from a bad scar. You'll still have one," Evan said gently. "Story souvenirs. Some people buy magnets," she said. He liked the way her humor aimed at herself first. A nurse re-wrapped the bandage, gave them a scolding about elevation and ice, and left. Addie leaned back against the pillow and stared at the ceiling like it owed her rent. "Okay. The truth I didn't tell you, that car is mine." "Okay," he said. "And the bottle?" "A prototype. I own a boutique fragrance brand. We were pitching to a hotel group today. Wind had other plans." She flicked him a look. "I hate telling strangers I'm rich. It changes the math in their eyes." Evan shrugged. "Blood makes people equal for a while." Her mouth quirked. "You're not thrown by much." "I've seen things fall apart in stranger ways," he said. "I'm good at after." She studied him another beat. "What did you want before budgets cut you?" "To keep fixing things that break when there's no time to Google it." He rubbed his jaw, rough with rain. "Today felt like what I'm for. So, work with me," she said. The words were so flat, so obvious, that he thought he'd misheard. "I'm sorry. Not as a driver," she said, reading his face. "As head of readiness. crisis drills, supply routes, partnerships with EMTs. I've been building a foundation to respond to disasters, fires, floods, you name it, using my distribution network. My investors think it's a PR hobby. I think it's the point. I need a spine for it. A person who can make chaos stand still. He blinked. Somewhere outside, rain softened to a steady hiss. You met me 40 minutes ago. And saw you triage a bleeding stranger with a towel, a voice, and 2 good hands, she said. I can teach perfume. I can't teach that. Evan sat back. The resume in his backpack suddenly felt shy. Ascendant logistics. The job that might pay rent on time but never his soul, faded around the edges. Before he could answer, the curtain whisked and a man in a suit stormed in like bad weather with brown hair. He saw Evan first, then Addie, then the bandage, and rearranged his fury. Madison, he snapped, getting her name wrong with confidence. Where is the car? Do you understand the insurance exposure you've created? And why is a stranger? Trent, get out, Addie said, voice chilled. You're not my handler, you're my head of finance. Which means you handle columns, not me. Trent looked at Evan with a calculation that evaluated shoes, watch, haircut, and assigned a value. Sir, we're fine here. Evan didn't stand. He'd learned not to square up to money, you let it exhaust itself. Trent, Addie said, this is the man who kept me from fainting in the street and possibly saved me a tendon. This is also the man I'm hiring to lead our readiness initiative. You can't just hire. I sign your checks, she said, as if reporting the weather. You're dismissed. Go gaslight somebody else about umbrellas costing too much. Trent's mouth pinched. Investors won't like. Text them a picture of my leg, she said, bright. Caption it. We are alive because strangers help strangers. Use a good filter. Out. He left in a little cloud of offended cologne. Evan exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. You didn't have to defend me. That wasn't about you, she said. That was about the kind of company I want to be. She shifted, winced, and smiled anyway. Also, it was fun. He laughed. Addison Cole, you are. Addie, she said again, softer. And you still haven't said yes. He looked down at his palms. Scar on the thumb from a busted window, callus from shears. He thought of nights he'd spent awake hearing phantom sirens, of mornings sending resumes into the same void. He thought of how natural it had felt to tell a crowd to help, and how even the rain had seemed to listen. Yes, he said, on one condition. Addie raised an eyebrow. We do it real, he said. Not as a press stunt. Drills with city agencies, contracts that deliver, warehouses that are more than backdrops. And we start with neighborhoods that never make the brochure. Addie's eyes warmed. Deal. She stuck out her hand like a kid on a playground making. The only contract that matters. He shook it. Her grip was strong despite the tremor. They left the hospital into air that smelled like wet concrete and second chances. Evan called a ride. Addie refused a wheelchair, accepted the crutches, and swore gently at each crack in the sidewalk like it had wronged her family. In the back seat, she texted something that lit up 3 different group chats. Need a company-wide tomorrow. Launching readiness division. Also someone tell Trent to take a nap and then a walk. Where to? The driver asked. Cole and Company headquarters, she said. Downtown. The building was all glass and intention. Inside, the lobby featured a video wall looping ad reels. Glittering bottles, models leaning into mirrors, taglines about memory and desire. Addie limped through it like a person allergic to her own perfume. She led Evan to an elevator with a key slot. The doors whispered shut on a world that ran on smell, money, and velocity. On the 26th floor, an office the size of a basketball court unrolled, concrete, plants, steel. Rain smudged the city beyond the glass. A whiteboard on one wall read, "Readiness, stop faking it." Underneath were messy bullet points. Hydrants, cots, diesel, radio repeaters, incident command. You weren't kidding, Evan said. Addie sank onto a sofa with a hiss of breath. Help me not kid, then. He shrugged out of the loaner hoodie the nurse had found for him and walked the wall, erasing, rewriting, architecting. He spoke in calm bursts that carried weight. Logistics hubs, mutual aid MOs, volunteer pipelines, paramedic training refreshers, insurance language that protects action instead of punishing it. Addie watched him build a skeleton for something that could stand up in wind. This part, he said, circling communications, has to be a voice people trust. Not press releases, plain English. Seatbelt voice, she repeated, tasting the phrase. She pointed at his resume poking from the backpack. How much of that can go in a job description by morning? All of it, he said, and grinned. Plus the part where we pay field crews enough to stay. She laughed, then sobered. You're hired, Director Mercer. His phone buzzed. An email from Ascendant Logistics. We heard about your assistance outside our building. If you're still interested, we'd love to reschedule. He typed respectfully decline before he could talk himself into the safe choice. Addie's gaze flicked to the rain. Want to know the other truth I didn't say? He waited. I was on my way to break an engagement, she said. He liked my face more than my voice. I told him last night I'm not going to be the beautiful silence in anyone's life. She smiled without joy. When the bottle broke, it felt like a sign I was allowed to bleed my way out. Evan nodded. Some doors close themselves for you. Sometimes they slam, she said, glancing at her bandage. Then she looked at him. You're the only part of this day that made immediate sense. The office went quiet except for the rain easing against glass. He didn't reach for her hand. He didn't need to. Their next day already had a job to do. Tomorrow, he said, we start with the South Harbor shelter. The roof leaks. I know the guy who fixes things without invoices. Text him, she said. Tell him Addison Cole owes him a favor and means it. He typed. A reply pinged. For you, Evan, always. For Addison Cole. Now I'm definitely coming to see if this is real. Addie laughed, a sound that softened his bones. We'll make it real, she said. They worked until the storm downsized into a drizzle and the city lights sharpened like knives drying on a rack. When Evan finally called a car to take her home, Addie hesitated by the elevator. You said scars are souvenirs, she said. What do they remind you of? That we don't get to decide what happens, he said. Just who we'll be when it does. The doors slid shut on her smile. An hour later, his phone vibrated. Home. Leg elevated. Ice on. Tell your roof guy 8 a.m. And, Director Mercer, thank you for telling the storm to stay still. He typed back. Tomorrow we teach it to listen. He put his trauma shears back in the bag like a prayer you keep even after you stop sitting in the pews. Then he slept hard for the first time in months.